Hello and welcome to a new video. Today I want to show you how you can use time tracking in Notion without even having to open the app. We will use for our time tracking Apple shortcuts and make.com. And of course, we will enter our data into Notion, but we don't have to open the app for it. So let's just dive into it. Okay, so first of all, you of course need a database. I call this database time tracker. Here is the task that you spent time for. Then here will be entered the start date and time, here end date and time, and here the calculation of how many minutes you have spent for your task. So this database you have to connect to the Notion API, or you have to get a secret token to access the Notion API. Maybe that's better formulated. So if you don't know how to connect it, you just click the three dots here. Important, you have to have the database open as full page. So as a page database, as an inline database, this will not work. So you go to the three dots here on the top right. Then you click here connections, and then you go to manage connections. Then the settings tab will open. You scroll down and you go here to develop or manage integrations. And then you can click here new integration. I have my integration here. I call it time tracker. And then you can here copy this secret token. Therefore you click show, which I will not do now, because if you have the secret token, you can do with my database whatever you want, basically. So you click here on show, and then a copy button will pop up, and then you can copy this secret token. Okay, so now we have our database, and now we go to Apple shortcuts. I built this shortcut already. So what you need to do is you enter here a text field, which is this one that you find here. In this text field, you enter the secret token. You just copy paste it here. The next step you do is to set a variable. This is this module here, set a variable. And I call this variable key. And this key I call the text variable. So behind this key, this secret token is now hidden. Then I put a module that is ask for some input. And what I want to do here is I want the shortcut to ask me how the task that I want to do is called. For example, I have a project where I need to do some literature research, and the task is literature research. I would enter that here. And the prompt I ask this with is just task question mark. You can write a more elaborated prompt, or you don't have to enter any prompt at all. You can just leave it empty. That is perfectly fine. So the next one is format date, because here we now enter our start date. So the module that you call here is format date, this one here. And then you type in here, so I quickly show this to you, which I will delete then again. Format, you clear this here, and then you type in current date, this one. So now you leave this with date. This is fine. Now important is the date format, which is ISO 8601. This is the date format that Notion uses. And then we want also the time to be included, so we toggle this on. So now you see here in the example, you have the date and you also have the time. Okay, I will delete this. And now we need to tell the shortcut which database it has to access. So we get a text module again, this one here, and here we enter the database ID. Where do we find the database ID? Therefore, we go again to these three dots here, and you click copy link. Now we open a text document, and we paste this here. And make this a bit bigger so you can see it a bit better. So, and what we need now is everything behind this slash, so we can delete this part, and everything before the question mark, so we can delete this part. And this, what remains now, is our database ID. And this you just copy, paste into this text field. Then you set a variable again, and you give it a name. I called it time tracker ID to this database ID. Okay, and the last step here is we enter a get the contents of URL module. And here you enter, so let me show you what happens when you put this here. So it is by default set to the previous module that you put, but you just clear this and then you enter an URL. And what you enter here is https://api.notion.com/v1/pages. So this access pages, or this access through the Notion API, the pages in your database. Then what else do we do here? So the method that we choose is post. We want to post data. We don't want to retrieve, so we don't want to get data. We want to post into our Notion database. Then you usually find it like this. You open the headers here and you write as a key authorization. And then in the value you write BIRA and the key. So you can just write BIRA, and then when you want to type key, this variable appears and you say key. The next thing is you write here Notion version, and this is 2022-06-28. This is it for headers, and you can close the headers again. And then it asks you here for request body. Here it is JSON. You could choose form and file, but we need JSON. So, and now in my other videos, I always used written JSON code and implemented it here, or imported it here as a text file. But since I got the feedback from you that some of you don't know how to code, or they don't have the right program or so on, I want to show you how you can do it just in this Apple Shortcuts app. So we have now here also key, we have type, and we have value. So the first thing that you enter is parent. You write down parent, and parent is a dictionary. So then you click here on parent, and then you click on this little plus button, and then it enters the new key within this parent header here. But you have to have parent open. So if it's closed and then you click on the plus button, you will just get a new key below properties here. But we want it within parent. Then you type database ID, and this is a text. And here you enter your database ID. And then we are done with parent. The next one is properties. And properties, we have here two properties that we want to edit, or that we want to edit. So we have the name and we have start. So the name is again a dictionary. Then within name, you write title, and this is an array. Within title, you don't have to write here. This is automatically done. If you put an item within this title here, it will automatically be set to item 1, and this you also cannot change. So item 1 is a dictionary as well. Then within item 1, you write text, which again is a dictionary. And then finally within text, you write content, and here you link the task. So the ask for input module you link here. So you write just ask for input, or what you can also do is a right click and then insert variable, select variable, and then you choose ask for input. Then we are done with the property name. You can close this. And the next property that we want to edit is our start time. So start, I call it start here because in my database, it's also called start. If you want to call it start time, you have to call it here also start time. The same with name. If you call it here title, you have to call it here also title. Otherwise, it will not work. Okay, so start is again a dictionary. And within start, you write date, which is again a dictionary. And within date, you write start, which is a text, and here you link your formatted date. That's everything for this shortcut. So let's run our shortcut. We do some literature research. And more you don't have to enter. You just have to enter the task that you are doing and everything else is done automatically. And when you see something like this, then everything is fine. It has worked. And then we see here in our database the task and the start time. What you can do now, of course, is to link it here to a project, for example. Then you have all the tasks for that project within your project, and you can calculate the entire time you spend for this project. Okay, so how do we do now with the end time? The problem is in Apple Shortcuts, to my knowledge, you cannot edit an already existing database entry. So there's no way for us to edit in this database entry the end time. And that's the reason why we need make. So let's open the stop time tracker shortcut. And this looks like this. So you only have the formatted date. Here's the current date and time, which has the same settings as in the shortcut we just built. So also here we have the date format ISO 8601, and we include the ISO 8601 time. And then here we also have to get contents of URL module. But here you see already the link that we put here looks a bit different. And this is a make.com webhook. This we have a look in some seconds. I just finished explaining you this. Headers you can leave empty. We don't need this. Method is again post. And then here request body is again the JSON. And key here is stop time, which is a text. And here we enter formatted date. So here we don't have anything that is nested within this stop time. This we don't need in that case. So let's go to make. So this is the scenario for the time tracker. You have here a webhook, so you create a custom webhook module. This you can just, here you click webhook. Now that we want to put it in the end, it doesn't give you the options that it gives you at the beginning, but you can choose here custom webhook. Then you can click add here, you can give it a name, and then you can click copy address here. You copy that address and you paste it in here. And then what you have to do is we get the notification that our request has been accepted. And here we see now that our data structure has been successfully determined. So, but what data do we receive now? So let's run this quick. I will unlink this. And we only want to run this now. Run this module only. So we run it. So it's waiting for data now. And we run this again. Our request has been accepted again, and we see now here what kind of data we are getting. So we get the stop time, the date, and also the timestamp. So let's link this again. So what we are doing here, we enter a Notion, or we add a search objects in Notion module. And you connect it to an integration. This is called Gmail to Notion for me. This is an integration that I use for everything. So you can call it whatever you want. Maybe you even have already one. And then you search for database items. You link your database ID. Therefore, you can just search here for the name of your database. So you don't have to manually enter or copy paste the database ID here. It's automatically done once you enter the name here. Filter we don't have, and then the limit is set to 1, has to be set to 1. So this is the drawback of this entire workflow, that you can only do one task at a time. So you cannot run tasks in parallel, because then the shortcut doesn't know to which task to put the end date. So it will always, in this case, put it to the most recently added database entry. So you can only do one task at a time. You cannot do multitasking and do tasks in parallel. That's one drawback here. So you set the limit to 1 and you save it. Then you add an update database item Notion module. You add the correct connection here again, enter database ID, select from the list, and here you can do the same as you did before. You can just search for the name of the database, and the database ID will automatically be entered. Here in database ID, you add the page ID of the search objects in Notion module, so of the module that is directly before our updated database item module. So this is important because this finds the last or the most recent database item. And then here you find your properties in your database. So we have name, we have start, and we have end, and we only want to edit the end. And here start time, you drag and drop, you just map the stop time here. End time is empty, and then here you include time, you choose yes, and then you save it. So you save the scenario and you test the scenario. So you click run once and we run our shortcut. It has been accepted, and now you see it is running and it's done. So we should have our end time entered here. Let's refresh this. So we have our end time here, and we get the time spent in minutes also calculated here. How do you do this? You choose a formula property, and then you enter date between, and then in parentheses the end date, comma, the start date, comma, and then minutes. If you want to have it in hours, then you just write hours here. I wanted it in minutes, so I wrote minutes here. So you can start and stop the time without any other distractions. When you open Notion or if you open any other app, you can just click these two buttons and focus solely on your task. I hope this was helpful for you, and yeah, see you in the next video. Bye bye.